good plan. Volume check by the panelists, so you go to the okay? So thumbs up. Great, thank you. So first and foremost, I'd like to invite a distinguished guest to speak about Soulbound tokens and NFT real life use cases. Just quickly, if we could go through and provide a brief introduction and then perhaps one Soulbound token or NFT use case that you're either interested in or have worked on yourself. And then we can get into some questions and lively discussion around this new token standard. So I guess we'll start with Hal.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. I'm Seki from Japan and also the digital agency in Japan. And yeah, I have been organizing a significant community around 10 years. And also, I started working for the government around 5 years ago. And now I am working for the digital agency as well. And in the digital agency, I am a member of the 3 research group. And and under the research group, I started a DAO called the Web3 Research Group DAO from digital agency. And yeah, now running DAO. Also, I'm running the DAO for the Japan and that's for the civic sector community. And also the SBTs potential for the DAO is for me is I want to use SBTs are bound to hold and not transferable, right? And it is good to the feature is good for representing the people's contribution and also experiences. So I'd like to use that feature for representing people's contribution for society. And for so that's my interest.
Thank you, Hal. Mr. Boon. Ben, if you'd be able to introduce yourself and let us know a Soulbound token use case.
Sorry, is that for me?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, thank you very much. My name is Boon. I'm from Deutsche Bank based here in Singapore. So briefly, as part of my responsibility, we conduct experiments to get our hands wet on leading technologies like blockchain, digital asset, crypto, as well as artificial intelligence to understand what the implications for regulations for financial services, as well as for our clients and industry. In the Soulbound token digital identity that we have experimented and created as part of Project Dharma, which stands for Digital Asset Management Access. We are looking to use it as not just an identifier for both at the institution or legal person layer, but also at the natural person investment layer. But also 2 other things from a investor suitability test perspective, whether can the Soulbound token help with investor suitability, as well as facilitate commercial considerations like investor loyalty. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Austin to introduce himself, and then we'll move on to Yuki and jump into the questions.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Austin, the founder of DeSoul. So DeSoul is providing a product called SoulHub, which is the first Soulbound token issuance platform for institutions and business and organizations to issue Soulbound token seamlessly. product is based on our own token standard called EIP 5727 semi-fungible soulbound token. Our mission is to create a easy to use and accessible platform to onboard organizations for them to use soulbound tokens.
Thank you, Yuki.
Can you hear me? Oh, thanks. I'm Yuki. I'm building the tools Unyte. This is a DAO tooling that can track members' work in the DAOs. We are also giving the feature that record the data of the members' contributions into the SBT. So DAO members can use these SBTs to prove that their work in the DAOs. So we are also giving our tools to the communities of NFTs, something like PFPs and so arts and so on. So we are interacting about the DAOs, NFTs, SBTs. So I'm glad to join here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for introducing. I see a common theme here. Some of the panelists around using soulbound tokens for sort of membership and contributions. Now, just keeping in mind that the panel's title is real life use cases, I think I'd invite perhaps some discussion around how we can sort of connect that real life community-based interactions by using soulbound tokens in that DAO environment that we're seeing grow. So by all means, would you like to start there and perhaps we can sort of...
Okay, let me start. Yeah, right now, Code of Japan or digital agency both doesn't start the implementation of SBT. So, but I'm wondering, I think we could be utilize SBTs for the digital agency DAO and for the people's contribution to the government research.
Sure.
Yeah. So right now, in the digital agency DAO, there are kind of around 30 people right now, but we want to invite more people, diverse people, and many people. And digital agency have many research topics, and maybe we can invite various people to the field. And ordinarily, that government research group is formed by the few people and not so various, right? So, but in that research group, we can invite many people and also give the SBT for the people and represent that people's contribution, how they give their insights to that research, and what kind of activity they contributed to that. So we reward such people, not the paying money.
Yeah.
So it can be kind of but produce some kind of reputation for the people. So that's my idea.
Fantastic. Yeah, I agree. It's quite important to sort of bridge away from this capital-based contributions and into reputation style contributions, and soulbound tokens is a great medium to get towards that outcome and that goal. I also enjoy that comment about allowing for a more diverse group to sort of join and build research around that, because it takes reputation to get into these groups. However, if we are able to use soulbound tokens as sort of an incremental process of contribution,
right,
that diversity can sort of improve the output and the, I guess, participation. So by all means, one of the online panelists jump in. I think if you have a specific idea that you would like to say, feel free to put your hand up as an icon. So then I can sort of direct to the person who would like to speak next. Otherwise, by all means, just jump in to the conversation.
I think Seki-san's making a great point here. So SBTs can use to represent those reputations and contributions. This is very useful for especially open source communities. For example, if we have I think like most of people know that on GitHub you can have your own like contribution graph and some of these badges, but they're not like an like SBT or NFT, that something you can say you own you can claim that your ownership publicly. So I think it's a pretty interesting use case for SBT to represent these social impact or voluntary contributions. Not only about open source contributions, but could be like charities and other like environmental activities. So that's also one thing I want to mention, that previously I was a OpenStreetMap contributor. But I was too busy now for contributing to OpenStreetMap. But anyway, one thing I would like to have is to encode these contributions, every mapper's contribution, into SBT and distribute to them. That would be very so we can visualize, or we can better how to say reward those active mappers around the world. They really make a great effort to make this open source project better. That's my it's my opinion and about this. Thank you.
This is Boon. If I can just add to what Austin has said, I think the open source and the community using such a verifiable token would be really amazing, and you can further recognize the contribution. But just taking a step back and zooming out, one of the a couple of challenges that we have come across in our little experiment in the regulated space tends to be, who is actually, it's not about the token itself or the person who is holding token, but who is actually verifying the information of the who is verifying the identity, and the verifier itself, is that a verified trusted source or a trust anchor, as MAS would put it, right? So this is one question that we have also thought about. And then secondly too is whether the information contained in that token, because the token, when you verify, we will assume that is it returns a simple answer like is this person a top contributor? Yes, no, that's the answer. Or then how updated is this information that lies behind the answer? Right. So if I say yes, no, is it based on the information that is 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 days ago? So those are the some of the thoughts and challenges that we came across. So just to contribute here too. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. You've actually sort of led into the follow-up question I had around some of the potential questions and challenges that we may see in Soulbis tokens, and specifically around that point of who is the issuing party and how do they verify it, and second to that, what is the life cycle management of the Soulbis tokens for that sort of timeline of contributions? Because I guess when we're talking about, for example, contributions to open source and DAOs, That's a one-off occasion. However, if we're thinking about ongoing, does that build on the same soulbound token, or are you going to be issuing new ones? Is there sort of diminishing returns as to the effectiveness or the reputation gained from these tokens? All interesting questions. So I guess, Yuki, do you have some light on some challenges that you may have seen or experienced in the work around soulbound tokens you're working in?
Yes, I found challenges. It's authenticity of this data, because when Niles write in the SBTs, the members' work, but it's not trustable, because the work is recorded in Discord, so we can't know the record is authentic or fake. So some DAOs can make some DAOs fake DAOs and fake records, and it's not a fake DAO. And once it's recorded on chain, it can be reverted. So we don't have the way to verify the data. This is some challenges I'm forcing, and we are creating the solutions now.
Do you have any suggestions as to the solutions? I guess one piece that we wrote in the soulbound token paper is that difference between revocability and recoverability. Revocability could be one such solution, but it may not be a one-size-fits-all for all of these DAO contributions. I guess just to follow up on that.
Yeah, I think this the social recovery phase is not enough. So we can recover only SBTs, but we can't trust the data's authenticity. So only the social recovery feature is not enough. So in my opinion, we need to verify the data's reliability by using the centralized judging system. So when we are installing the system to verify the DAOs and their activities before they use our tools. So, but this is the centralized way. So I'm now wondering how to verify the data by the decentralized system, but I don't know how to now.
This Boon, just we think what Yuki-san is trying to do is will be really amazing because it is a difficult challenge. In our Dharma experiment, the identity of soulbound token is issued after the KYC have been done by traditional financial institution. So the soulbound token or digital identity is not supposed to replace, but rather to encapsulate certain of this data for use in the open source digital financial network, in the coming future. At the same time, what we try to do then is that, instead of one-to-one type of relationship. So, for example, you're my bank. I do KYC with you. I go to another bank. I need to do KYC with you. Where we try to identify is that in the asset management space, there's this entity called a transfer agent that does the KYC for investors. So after this transfer agency entity have done the KYC for the investor, can they then use the soulbound token that is issued to me as an investor? Can I as an investor, after being done by being KYC by this transfer agent and being issued this soulbound token, can I use this soulbound token to invest into another asset manager that the same transfer agent is serving? So it's really trying to change the one-to-one relationship to one-to-many relationship. But essentially, we sidestep the difficult challenge of verifying the identity because in the process, ours is after it has been done by an established trusted source. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really quite interesting. And I guess one of the benefits of soulbound tokens is that sort of composability and the ability to sort of cross over. We actually have a question from Natsan in the audience. I guess, would you like to?
Okay. This is mainly to Yuki. So Have you ever looked at something like verifiable credentials, and also, the work we are doing at OpenID Foundation called OIDC for IDEA, where we are actually providing the metadata about the data that you are trying to establish, right? For example, who verified the entity using what credentials, when it was done, and according to what law it was done, and so on and so forth. So that you at least have some basis of belief, some basis to form belief. And so my question was whether you have looked at something like that.
Thank you for asking me. So in my system, we are doing the KYC and verifying system by myself. So it's not trustful because it's only the startup company. So when issuing DIDs or some credentials, in the best way, the trusted third party resistance should check these credentials. But in these ways, I haven't yet seen the good examples of verifying this credential, because I also think I don't know what the issuer is trustful. So we can't know this way. So for now, we are doing the KYCs and the verifying process by myself. That's my answer.
Yeah. So the follow-up question maybe is the case in Germany and other jurisdictions. It's the regulated entities and the entities like bank, right? Regulated by laws to do the KYC AML process to actually provide those information about how they have verified and attaching that to the actual data itself. I mean, they are not providing any more guarantee than they have actually verified at such date, like maybe 5 years ago, right? So they don't attest whether it's true right now, but it's still on some kind of basis.
It's so difficult questions, but in my opinion, so there's no way to verify the parse data now. So the issuers only can check their identities, cards, or the activities of the past organizations. So only even they can know what the data is trustful by themselves. So I can't give the right answer, but I don't know how to do that for now.
Yeah, there are some challenges about verifying the verified identity and also verified contribution. So both are different. But I'm in my DAO, we are discussing to use the VC for identify verify the contribution was made. So verified credential. For example, for the report, so it can be verifiable by digital agency, I think. So we can use the BID web method, digital agency domain, for example. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that's a really interesting. Oh, go on. Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, if I may just add, I think the idea is a really cost-effective one and very useful because it allows then the VC or verifiable credential done by one bank hopefully to be reused again by another, and this actually can be tremendously beneficial in reducing the cost of KYC, which can be relatively high. However, going back to what Yuki-san has mentioned, is there going to be even if it's a bank who will be acting as the verifiable credential issuer, is there a standard of that such a bank will be adhering to that other banks will also recognize? And is this standard then something that the regulator itself would be endorsing and be supportive of? Because if it's if it's a private industry basis, then me as another bank to accept a verified credential issued by another bank, I'll be concerned about my regulatory risks, because unless there is a standard, we have agreed, and there's blessings by the regulators. Thank you.
Just one quick comment on that.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have that.
Yeah.
So with regard to that, we are having an initiative called GAIN, Global Assured Identity Network, and we are actually discussing those. And right now, since regulated entity to regulated entity transaction is, especially cross-border, there's very big legal uncertainty. It's not certain, right? So we are actually, pushing that a little bit to the future, and we're just doing regulated entity to non-regulated entity use cases, which is going to be much easier. But even that is challenging, right? Because each jurisdiction has different requirements on KYC kind of things. It's not mandated, but business practice, right? And in some jurisdiction they require street address, and in some other jurisdiction there's no notion of street address. For example, in Japan, it's house number system. We don't have street address. A lot of street actually don't have even names, right? So that kind of things, and then the municipality, the prefectures, or states, this all cause all the confusions, even the names. Requiring last name can be discriminatory against some population, because for some countries there's no notion of last name. They've got only one name. And then there are countries where they have to actually have like 10 names to properly identify that person. So that alone, although sounds simplistic, is quite challenging. But at GAIN we are trying to sort those out. So
yeah, I guess what comes to mind is a discussion that we were having yesterday in the sort of more regulatory pieces around the travel rule, which has been proposed by FATF, and that's between two regulated entities sort of sharing data and sharing about a transaction, and the fact that the KYC is being completed. So if we're able to problem solve using SBTs in that way, we could potentially try and push probing into sort of that global regulatory environment for cryptocurrency transactions too. There's actually a really interesting bridge here. So Austin, he sort of wrote one of the SBT standards, EIP 5727. I guess if, Austin, you could provide some insight on the EIP proposal and standard setting process that you went through, and whether or not it's possible to have this like diversity around those credentials to be a bit more flexible, so we can have street addresses from Australia and house numbers from Japan, etc.
Yeah, thank you. At DeSoul, we're developing a modular soulbound token solution. Certainly. I think what you mentioned is about the interoperability and these versatile. How to make SBT more versatile. We did a lot of work on this. We have different extensions for this soulbound token interface, such as the delegation, like DAO governance modules, and recoverability modules, so that you can have your provide some signature as a as a backup for your Soulbound token. Well, we have a lot of other modules, like you can customize the metadata, like you mentioned. You can have different schemes if these metadata to be how do you say, to be used in different countries to encode your either identity or some of the work contribution, work history, or so we're researching and trying to find a more abstract or and yet versatile bridge implementation for Soulbound token. And in our proposal EIP, when I was raising the proposal, actually I went through the process of submitting an EIP. So basically, what I've done is you have to learn about how other EIPs and find if they're having the having similar, like very similar EIPs with yours or not, and then you draft your EIPs to make, like, in a clear way. You have to justify your motivation and provide some of these interface or codes to the in the document. And then we just at that time I just how to say design the interface with we use a semi-fungible kind of storage model for Soulbound tokens, so that you can encode both fungible assets and non-fungible assets together in one contract. So that's the most underlying part we're based on. So after that, after you finish all the things, you just create a PR on GitHub, and community Ethereum community staff will review it, and hopefully you can, we got merged into the EIP. The main the EIPs. So you can check it on the EIP website. I'll post it in the comment in this meeting. Feel free to give some feedbacks and suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from the chat now that I'm looking, from Anya. Could Soulbound tokens be disclosed and delegated to someone who acts on the investor's behalf? Or would the act of delegation itself be yet another token with such a proxy role? Would such a proxy role be recognized? Boon, do you have any thoughts on this, given the sort of investment aspect and angle that you're coming from?
Yes, and this this is a draft idea that we have, right? So it doesn't represent the whole realm of possibility. If there is actually a legal person, right? Let's say, for example, an asset manager standing in the middle of many individual investors, it is we didn't see the need for a Soulbound token for the asset manager to invest in. So, for example, if you and me, we are individual investors, and then we send our money to an asset manager, and then the asset manager basically then use our money collectively, right, and then invest into the fund. Then there is actually there's two legs here. The first leg is between the asset manager and the capital market, so there's no need for a Soulbound token there. Then, because the asset manager will have its own omnibus account structure, and within the asset manager or the service providers to the asset manager, for example, the transfer agent or the registrar will be keeping the details of who the investors are in a detailed manner. So the capital markets and asset manager doesn't really require a soulbound token. There's already LEI and a lot of other identifiers for the asset manager. It's then the asset manager and the investor, or the asset manager, distributor, and investor, the retail investor, that will say, hey, you know, what are the benefits of having a soulbound token between the distributor and the investors, or directly between the asset manager and the retail investors without disintermediating the distributor. So this is something that I'd like to share with everybody, that, you know, in this form, right, the soulbound token could actually have some disintermediating effect on certain participants, in this case, the distributor, because it would allow the asset managers to talk directly to the investors, whereas currently today is the asset manager talking to the distributor talking to the investor. So in this case, then, this is where we see the potential benefits and application of the soulbound token. And the question then is, okay, you know, which leg is it between distributor and investor, or asset manager and investor, without disrupting the distributor relationship? Thank you.
That's really interesting. I guess part of the benefit of using blockchain technology is you do have this transparent ledger. So you can actually sort of create trust between those sort of multiple layers of relationships on the either distribution or asset management side. Guess I'll jump into another question here. Maybe we'll shift gears a little bit and move into, I guess, some more cultural or gaming or another type of real life use case in NFTs, and whether or not anyone on the panel has thought about these aspects. I know Helen and I were speaking about this a couple of days ago, about using sort of soulbound tokens for contributions, but also rewarding people for voting and contributing to cultural works in, for example, a local principality, or the mural on a wall of a new building. I guess, did you want to provide a bit of color on that concept too?
Oh, yeah. So as a code for Japan, we are providing the student participatory services for the local government, and each local government. So the local government wants to connect with the students, right? And they need to voices from the students. And so we are using Web2 technology for connecting that. We use the open source software called DeSoul, born in Barcelona, and we right now in some cities they have a platform for the students, and a student can make a proposal to the government and can vote on proposals, and some of the cities use get some those voices and decide include that voices to their policy making process. So it would be great if we can connect such kind of policy making or student participatory, some kind of budgeting or something, and with this kind of SBTs concept, it will be allowed students. For example, it can be maybe it can be easily to define the voters or students or not, or maybe we can include the e-residency to as a more widely stakeholder. Sure. So and also it's not only for the policy making. Just they can select the artists on painting the walls or something. So yeah, it could be fun.
Yeah, that's great. I think like we get into complexity when we speak about more regulated environments, and often in order to exemplify the technology, we should start with something simple and almost non-offensive, like voting on the mural, just to engage the population and do these experiments. So I guess opening it up to the online participants, have you thought about these aspects too?
For me? Oh, thank you. As Seki said, in Japan, NFTs are sometimes used in the rural reinventations. So, for example, in the Japanese DAOs, Yamakoshi DAOs are sold their digital citizenships as NFTs, and communities are also built in the Discord, and the people in the digital citizen and the local real citizens are interacting for each other. So the use of NFTs has generated new resources for local development, reinventing, and has also led to the great phenomenon of people rediscovering the attractiveness of the rural cities. For example, it's Yamakoshi, for example, and so on. So it's a great use case, I think, of the NFTs. Thank you.
If I can just contribute one point, NFTs, right? And of course, Soulbis token, when we were exploring this, right? The non-fungible and non-transferable nature of it. That's what makes it attractive. So we have also looked at EIP 5727 before. So it's with great honor that we meet one of the author here, Austin. The thing that we struggle with is this as well. The token itself, the identity may be non-fungible, but the mobile device can be transferable. I can still pass it to my friend, to somebody who will then be able to use the NFT, who potentially could use the NFT contained within that mobile phone, to impersonate me, or either accidentally or deliberately. So this is something that we have also try to think about to see, hey, how do you then prevent the device that holds the NFT from being the device that gets transferred to other people for them to use the Soulbis token or NFT that has got value. Yeah, thank you.
It's a really good question, and in some of the IKP discussions yesterday, we were speaking about wallet governance and whether or not you can trust the wallet or trust the phone. And I think that what was sort of general consensus during that discussion yesterday is that we just need to work towards building almost better systems for recognizing that trust of either the device or the wallet or the address. So I will keep you posted on the developments of that and move forward. I guess in the last 10 minutes, I'd like to invite anyone from the audience to ask any questions of the panelists, or otherwise I'll jump in with a few. Great. Joey, would you like to come up?
Hi everyone, I'm Joey. I'm one of the other partners of Soulbis. We work on Soulbis tokens, advising the piece. It's great to see everyone who actually is working on Soulbis tokens. I think we're 4 days away from the anniversary of the white paper coming out, so it's pretty big to celebrate very soon. I have a question for Mr. Chan. What was it like, working in an institution, going through the hoops of even looking at Soulbis tokens, let alone actually doing a pilot project? What was the difficulties that you faced, and equally, how did it end up coming about?
Thank you. The way we did it was that, it's a ring-fence experiment sandbox that my team did. So it's not production, it's an experiment. It's designed to learn, designed to understand what the implications and consideration. So for example, in a public chain, when we talk about having a digital identity, which is really important, anchored by a trust anchor. Then the question of portability also arose. Okay, so if I actually create a Soulbound token on one EVM chain, how do I actually use that Soulbound token in another EVM chain? Is that true portability, or do I still need to go through a mint and burn type of process? So these are some of the aspects that we experiment in a very tightly controlled environment in order to inform our stakeholders. So this will be a first step. For all intent purposes, we could say that it's really about R&D and learning before we go on, while we overlay with the practical challenges of for example KYC. I think one of the audience has mentioned before, right? That regulated entity to regulated entity, especially cross-border, that's going to be super amazingly complicated. So what about between two entities within the same jurisdiction? What about different things? So that's where we develop our thought process in order to then understand the feasibility and practicality of implementing it. So from an internal perspective, we have most senior sponsors who are also savvy in technology and interested to know more about what this could mean for us in the dawning future of digital finance. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a list more questions, but I'll let other people ask questions too. Thank you very much.
Alan? We have another question coming up.
Hi. Thank you for this nice discussion. I have a comment and a question. First is related. So now when listening to what requirements you have in regards to transferability and the tokens are not non-transferable, but device can, and also what happens when keys are lost, which is very related to the topic we had yesterday about the wallets. Here's a comment to consider or reconsider how, for which end users, such systems are viable, because what we learn is that for natural persons, something like verifiable credentials are more useful because it's easier to do recovery, device transfer, and other properties, whereas for legal entities, such approaches may be appropriate. But my question is, and this question is related to both as soulbound tokens and NFTs, how do you see the process of attaching information to the SBT or NFT? Because we did some analysis, and turns out the way information is bound to at least NFTs didn't look in SBTs. It's insecure. There are ways to fix it, but today it's subject to an attack where an attacker can actually take the data, mint the NFT before the original one, so you have no longer assurance that the minted token is really the originator of that content. What are your thoughts on this?
I don't know.
Okay. I guess some of Soulbound token developers, either Yuki or Austin, I think you might have some insights here on using sort of the cost benefit analysis of Soulbound tokens versus VCs and DIDs as getting the data into the Soulbound token is the key question.
Okay, in my opinion, VCs are also good way to contribute, verify their past work, but it's also insecure when their DIDs, private keys are rusted or revealed. So the risks are same, I think. And we also giving the features of social recovery, and it's feature of the SBTs that can regenerate it when they lost private keys or stored them by themselves. And the social recovery features can also read by the community members. So when the community members agrees to burn or transfer the SBTs, they can do so. So this is protections of the SBT security. And I think also DIDs and SBTs are also in same secure level, I think. Thank you.
Sorry, may I ask a clarifying question? What sort of data is insecure that, giving rise to the risk that the minted SBT or NFT becomes a counterfeit?
Okay, to give an example, one of the major issues are not like is related to the keys, but actually how information is bound to the so in NFTs, the direction goes from, so there's a content that's stored externally, let it be any digital content, then it's linked so via URL, and that URL is actually appended in the NFT itself. However, once this information is public, anyone who sees it, so minors will see it, can do a front running. So suddenly anyone can like mint a token before you with the same content. So with this, you kind of lose the like power or ability to protect the content and the binding. I mean, the process can of course be reversed, which makes it secure. But yeah, this is what I would like to hear from you. How do you see this part?
Can I jump in? So I might have some insights into this. So yeah, that's a valid concern, but for a verifier to verify this SBT, the most important thing I think would be who is the issuer. So if the issuer is one of the trusted issuers, then I think the data should also be considered trustful. But if the issuer is from an unknown or a strange address, then I think the data they point to, even if the data looks like super valid, or I think we just discard that part, and we don't trust that Soulbound token. So but related to the kind of the security aspect of data, I think if one decided to publish it publicly, then you could that implies that anyone could freely point to or use or view that data. So I don't think that would be like a more security concern, more like how do you trust and verify these Soulbound tokens?
Yeah, we agree with Austin, on the basically like the validity of the issue identity. In our experiment, what we have done is, essentially, it really depends on the data structure that you finally embed in. So whether will a function call return the data itself, or return actually a value, a Boolean value, true or false, which actually then doesn't really disclose the data behind. So that's one thing. Secondly, as well, what we have also experimented is that, for the most sensitive information, it's not kept on chain. It's actually kept in a offline database, or IPFS. And everything else then is then encrypted into the data array that is available in the blockchain. So hopefully this helps, although we are still also trying to learn more. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. That actually brings us to the close of this sort of panel discussion. So I guess I'd like to invite everyone to put their hands together and thank all of the distinguished guests on the panel. And so I think next yeah.
Thank you very much for having us here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It's time for the coffee break. Next industrial session will start at 10:30 a.m.